Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're going exploring the world of architecture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And it seems like you guys are pretty interested in it too, because you sent us a ton of research and articles on it.
That's right.
And I got to say, it's pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we've got this excerpt here from the Canadian Architectural Licensing Authorities,
Hmm.
and they're talking about, get this, the Architect 5.0.
Architect 5.0.
Architect 5.0. I know, right? Like,
Yeah.
what does that even mean?
All right. It really highlights how the perception of architects is changing.
Yeah, for sure. We're not just talking about someone who, like, designs buildings anymore.
Right.
This deep dive is going to look at all the other things that architecture is involved in, like sustainability and technology
Yeah.
and even globalization.
It's a lot more than just blueprints these days.
It is a lot more than blueprints. So, when we think about architects, now we have to think bigger, right? We have to think about the entire built environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just about a single building.
Like you said, they're coordinating stakeholders, managing budgets. They shape how we interact with our surroundings.
And they have a huge responsibility.
They do.
Because, you know what? They're not just designing buildings. They're designing the spaces that we live in, that we work in,
Yeah.
that we play in.
It impacts our lives every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it impacts society as a whole.
Yeah,
And it impacts the environment.
for sure.
So, the 21st century,
Yeah.
it brings a whole new set of challenges and opportunities to the world of architecture, right?
Definitely.
So projects are getting more and more complex.
Yeah.
We're requiring expertise from all these different fields.
It has so many different fields. It's amazing.
Like, think about it.
Yeah.
You need to know about engineering, sociology, even economics.
Right.
Like, you need to be an expert on everything. And our source actually says that because of this complexity, we're seeing more specialization
Oh, interesting.
within the field of architecture.
Yeah, you're going to have architects who hone in on specific areas like
Totally.
heritage conservation, inclusive design, and, sustainable building practices.
Yeah. But even if you specialize, right?
Yeah.
It's still super important to have a broad understanding of, like, the entire profession.
Yeah, that's true. You need that foundation.
Yeah. It's like being a doctor.
Okay.
You might be a heart surgeon, but you still got to know how the whole body works, right?
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've got all these challenges, we've got all this specialization.
All right.
What are some of the exciting, like, new things happening in architecture?
Well, I think the biggest thing is this shift to
Yeah.
strategic planning
Hmm.
in those pre-design stages.
Whoa. So it's even before they start designing the building.
Yeah, you got to think about sustainability, inclusivity,
Right.
making sure that's all baked in from the very beginning.
So they're not just brought in to design a building, they're actually part of, like, shaping the entire vision from the start.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And another big thing is inclusive design.
Okay.
We're not just talking about like meeting accessibility codes.
Huh?
It's about going further and truly embracing human diversity.
Right.
You've got to think about all sorts of needs: mobility, sensory processing,
Right.
even cultural preferences.
Our source gave some really neat examples,
Yeah, like what?
like designing spaces for different types of mobility devices.
Well, that is important.
Yeah, and thinking about, like, sensory-friendly spaces and making sure that the spaces that are being designed actually reflect the cultural heritage of the people who use them.
Yeah, you want everyone to feel welcome and comfortable, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, have you ever been in a building where something just felt off?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like maybe the lighting was bad, or
Yeah.
the acoustics were terrible,
Yeah.
or the layout was just confusing.
Yeah.
Architects who are using inclusive design, they're thinking about all of that. They're
Mhm.
thinking about how different people experience spaces.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
So let's talk about sustainable and regenerative design,
Okay.
because, we can't just be thinking about energy efficiency anymore.
Right. We got to go further.
We got to go further.
Yeah.
Like, our source talks about the heat island effect.
Oh, yeah, where cities get way hotter than the areas around them.
Exactly. And architects are, like, right on top of that.
They are. And, it's not just about like reducing the negative impacts.
Uh-huh.
We want to create buildings that actually give back to the environment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's where regenerative design comes in.
Okay. I like.
Like buildings with green roofs
Yeah.
that can filter rainwater, or maybe they provide habitats for wildlife.
Yeah.
Or maybe they even produce more energy than they use.
The future of architecture sounds pretty amazing.
It really does.
Like, it's incredible how we can use design to tackle these big environmental challenges.
Absolutely.
But, it's not just about designing these brand new, super futuristic buildings.
Right.
We got a lot of existing buildings.
Yeah, tons of them.
And our source talks about how architects are like revitalizing these structures.
Oh, yeah. Bringing them back to life?
Yeah.
That's a really cool challenge.
It is. It seems like a really delicate balance
Yeah.
between preserving history and like making sure that the buildings are still useful and relevant in the 21st century.
You got to be really sensitive to the building's past,
The source was talking about how they were like architectural detectives.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Uncovering the secrets of these buildings, figuring out how to like make them work.
It's a really interesting field.
It is.
And it's not just about the building itself, it's about the community too.
Yeah. Okay.
You can revitalize a whole neighborhood
Okay. Oh.
by bringing those old buildings back to life, create jobs,
Oh, wow.
attract investment, make people proud of their community.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff.
So it's about way more than just like the bricks and mortar of the building.
Exactly.
It's about like the social impact. It's about building communities.
Totally. And you know what else is all about? Shaping communities?
What?
Urban design.
Ah, yes. Urban design. This is where architects really get to think big.
They do.
I mean, our source talks about how they're involved in everything.
Yeah.
From like master planning entire cities to designing like the little details of streetscapes.
They're thinking about how people move through the city,
Oh,
how
great.
they use public spaces, how the built environment can make their lives better.
So they're literally designing the stage for our daily lives.
They are. It's a huge responsibility
It is.
because you've got to think about all sorts of things.
Like what?
Transportation, sustainability, social equity,
Right.
economic development. Like you said, it's a big puzzle.
It's a big puzzle. And you know what? Our source highlights how architects are playing a key role in making cities more walkable, more bikeable.
Yeah, that's great.
They're creating those vibrant public spaces that everyone loves. And they're even designing transportation systems that, like, connect people.
It all comes together. It's
Yeah.
amazing how they do it.
And they're thinking about climate change, too, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're incorporating green infrastructure. They're
Okay.
designing buildings that can withstand, extreme weather.
That's so important.
It is.
So when it comes to urban design, it seems like it's all about finding those creative solutions to these, like, big, hairy challenges.
Totally. And you got to understand how cities work,
Right.
You got to understand how people move through them, the traffic patterns, the social dynamics of different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff.
It's pretty amazing how architects are shaping the cities of the future.
They are.
But, we can't forget about those new ways that projects are actually being delivered.
Oh, right. The client-architect relationship is changing.
It is changing. Like
Yeah.
that traditional model where the architect just works on their own, hands off their designs to the contractor, that's not really how it works anymore.
Not as much.
Not as much. There's more collaboration now, right?
Oh, way more. Integrated design processes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you'll have architects, engineers, contractors all working together like
Like from the very beginning.
from the get-go. Yeah.
That's so cool. It seems like such a better way to work.
It is. You get better communication, fewer mistakes,
Right.
and in the end, a better project.
It makes so much sense.
And there's also a lot of talk these days about design-build partnerships.
Okay. What are those?
So basically, the architect and the contractor, they team up
Huh?
and they become the single entity that's responsible for both the design and the construction.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you're not dealing with two separate contracts.
Right.
It's all under one roof.
That seems like it would save a lot of time and money.
It can, yeah.
That's probably really appealing to clients.
It is. It is. And it also means that the architect and the contractor have to work really closely together,
Oh, yeah, I bet.
which can actually lead to some really creative and efficient solutions.
That makes sense.
And then there's public-private partnerships.
Oh, right. P3s, yeah.
Exactly.
So what are those all about?
So it's basically a deal between, like, a public agency, like a city government,
Okay.
and a private company.
Okay.
And they work together to finance, design,
Yeah.
build, and sometimes even operate a big public infrastructure project.
Wow. Okay. So it's like they're using the expertise of the private sector
Yeah,
to benefit the public.
exactly. And you see this a lot with big projects like highways, bridges, transit systems.
So I'm guessing architects are involved in these P3s too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They bring their design skills, their technical knowledge, and their project management skills.
It sounds like these new ways of doing projects,
Mhm.
they really require architects to be adaptable.
They do.
You got to be able to work with all kinds of different people
Absolutely.
and manage like a lot of different moving parts.
Yeah, it's a complex world out there.
It is.
Yeah.
But we can't forget about technology, right?
Oh, right. Technology. It's changing everything.
Our source was talking about how things like BIM, automation, and all these advanced visualization tools
Hmm.
are like revolutionizing the way architects work.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So BIM, that's a big one.
It is. Building information modeling.
Yeah.
It's like having a digital twin of the building.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, so you can create these super detailed 3D models, and they have information about every single aspect of the design.
That's incredible.
Like what materials are being used, how energy efficient it's going to be.
So it's like a virtual lab
It is, kind of.
where you can test out different ideas and see how they work.
Exactly. You can test your designs, figure out if there are any problems,
Yeah.
and make changes before you even start building.
That's so smart.
It's a really powerful tool.
It is. It seems like it would make everything so much more efficient.
It does. Less mistakes, better communication,
Right.
and you end up with a better building.
And the source was saying that BIM also helps everyone involved in the project work together better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Everyone has access to the same information.
Right.
They can track progress. They can collaborate.
It's like putting everyone on the same page, literally.
Exactly. And beyond BIM, there's all sorts of other cool technologies,
Like what?
like virtual reality and augmented reality.
Oh, cool.
So architects can actually visualize their designs
Oh, wow.
and communicate their ideas in a whole new way.
So technology is giving architects all these new tools
It is.
to be more creative, more efficient.
Or impactful.
Yeah. And it seems like the field of architecture is always changing.
It is always evolving.
Architects are right there on the front lines figuring out how to use these new tools, tackling new challenges.
It's a really dynamic profession.
It is. So, it's clear that architects are shaping the world around us,
They are.
but the world is also shaping them.
That's a great way to put it.
And that brings us to another really interesting thing that our source talks about.
Yeah, what's that?
It's all the different career paths
Oh, interesting.
that you can have with an architectural education.
Yeah, you don't just have to design buildings.
You don't. It's not just about becoming a licensed architect, and that's it.
There are so many other options.
Like the skills you learn in architecture, they're super valuable
I
on
know.
all sorts of fields.
Think about it. Critical thinking, problem solving,
Mm.
spatial reasoning, visual communication, these are all skills that people want.
Yeah, totally. Architects are trained to see the big picture, understand complex systems,
Yeah.
and they can come up with creative solutions to tough problems.
Right, they're problem solvers.
So it's no surprise that we see architects doing all sorts of interesting things.
Yeah, what kind of things?
Well, our source mentions architects working as sustainability consultants,
Oh, cool.
urban planners,
Makes sense.
project managers, even user experience designers at, tech companies.
That's amazing.
It is. I had no idea.
Yeah, think about sustainability consulting.
Okay.
Architects, they know all about how buildings impact the environment.
Right.
So they're in a great position to help companies be more eco-friendly.
Yeah, totally. And in urban planning,
Yeah.
they're thinking about space and design on a whole other level.
Yeah, they can see how everything fits together.
Right. And they can make cities more livable.
Exactly.
And then you've got UX design, for websites and apps.
Yeah. It's all about user experience.
Yeah.
Well, architects know how people move through space, how they interact with their surroundings.
Right. So it's the same principles.
Yeah,
It's so cool how all these different fields are actually connected.
it is. And it shows you that architecture is about way more than just,
Yeah.
pretty buildings.
It's about using design
Solve problems.
to make people's lives better.
Exactly.
Wow, this deep dive has really been an eye-opener for me.
Me too.
I had no idea. The world of architecture was so big and so complex.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. And it's clear that architects are shaping the future,
They are.
not just of buildings, but of society.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
And the most exciting thing is that the profession is constantly evolving.
Yeah, always changing.
New technologies, new challenges,
Architects are always right there on the edge.
finding solutions, pushing boundaries.
I love it.
So if you're out there and you're interested in architecture,
Yeah.
whether you want to make it your career or you're just curious about the world around you,
Yeah.
I encourage you to keep learning.
There's so much to discover.
There is. And the cool thing is,
Yeah.
this design thinking that architects use,
Uh-huh.
you can apply that to anything,
You can.
no matter what your passion is.
It's a valuable way to approach any problem.
It is. And that's actually a great point to wrap up this part of our deep dives.
Yeah.
We're just getting started, though, so stay with us for the next part of our deep dives, where we'll keep exploring this amazing world of architecture.
I can't wait.
Me neither. All right, so we just talked about a bunch of really cool stuff like inclusive design, sustainable practices, and the impact of technology on architecture.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
We did, but you know what really caught my attention?
What's that?
This whole idea of revitalizing existing structures.
Oh yeah, giving old buildings a new lease on life.
It just seems like such a fascinating challenge.
It is, because you're not starting from scratch.
Right.
You're working with a building that already has a history, a story to tell.
And our source was saying that architects have to be really careful about preserving that history.
Absolutely, you've got to respect the building's past.
You know, the original purpose, the materials that were used.
It's like being an architectural detective.
Right. It's like architectural archaeology.
Yeah, I like that.
But it's not just about preservation, right?
Right.
You also have to think about how to make the building useful today.
Exactly. You want to honor the building's heritage, but you also have to adapt it to meet modern needs.
And of course, sustainability has got to be a big part of that whole process.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how do you make these old buildings more energy efficient?
Yeah, how do you reduce their carbon footprint?
And how do you make sure that they're going to last for another 100 years?
Right, it's a lot to think about.
It is. But you know what? Our source actually gave a really cool example.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
They talked about this old factory
Okay.
that was transformed into this mixed-use development with apartments and shops and even a community garden.
Wow, that's awesome.
I know, right? And they were able to keep that cool industrial look of the factory
That's so cool.
while also creating this really vibrant and sustainable space.
Adaptive reuse projects like that are becoming more and more common.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you see old schools being turned into libraries,
Oh, wow.
train stations turned into museums, even churches being repurposed as community centers.
It's like giving these buildings a whole new life.
Exactly. And it's not just about the buildings themselves.
Okay.
It's about revitalizing whole neighborhoods.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you bring new life to these areas that have been kind of forgotten. You create jobs, you attract investment, and you give people a sense of pride in their community.
So it's about a lot more than just bricks and mortar.
It is.
It's about making a positive impact on people's lives.
And speaking of shaping communities, let's talk about urban design.
Oh, yeah, urban design. That's where architects really get to think big, right?
They do. It's all about the big picture.
I mean, our source was saying that architects are involved in everything from, like, planning entire cities to designing individual streets.
They're thinking about how people move through the city,
Right.
how they use public spaces, how the built environment can impact their quality of life.
So they're basically designing the stage for our daily lives.
That's a great way to put it.
And they have to think about all these different factors.
Oh, yeah, tons of factors.
Like transportation, sustainability, social equity, economic development.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. It sounds super complex.
It is complex, but, our source highlighted some really cool things that architects are doing in urban design.
Oh, like what?
Well, they're making cities more walkable and more bike-friendly.
Yeah.
They're creating those vibrant public spaces that people love.
Right.
And they're designing transportation systems that connect people to jobs and opportunities.
It's like they're weaving this whole tapestry of urban life.
They are. It's pretty amazing.
And they're thinking about climate change too, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're incorporating green infrastructure into their designs. They're making buildings that can withstand those crazy weather events we've been seeing.
So urban design, it's really about finding creative solutions to these big challenges that cities are facing.
Totally.
You got to understand how cities work, like the traffic patterns,
Yeah, the flow of people,
the social dynamics of different neighborhoods.
the economic forces at play.
It's a lot.
It is, but it's also incredibly fascinating.
It really is.
That's a great challenge. And who knows, maybe one of our listeners will come up with the next big architectural innovation.
That would be awesome. Well, that's it for our deep dive into the world of architecture.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into a topic that's shaping our world.
See you then.